He might have just been proxying port 80, and he got one of his friends to do it. The site didn't want us to pursue this issue anymore, so we contacted the ISPs and the other CERT teams. Undoubtedly, we didn't hear a response from the anonymous service because that's where they get their business from, really, dealing with bad people like that. But we wouldn't block that anonymous service because there might be legitimate users. I think that kind of differentiates us. We're very left-wing like that. We heard back from one of the Italian ISPs who told us it was dealt with, and one of the other ISPs didn't get back to us, which is, I was quite surprised that one of them got back to us. It's very, very rare that ISPs actually get back to you on their abuse desks. There are some notable exceptions, such as Access for All, but a lot of ISPs don't. PHPMyAdmin. Now, this relates to a vulnerability which was patched in April, and some proof of concept code came out in June. We didn't have any issues with this until the proof of concept code came out. That we detected. Straight away when this came out, we used Google, as we knew most of the naughty people would be using Google to find vulnerable systems. We contacted all those sites and tried to fix all the systems we could find in Google. Obviously, Google's not going to find everything. So some nice person I think it was about a month later, called John Doe, I don't think that's his real name, posted a little message about an IRC server, which was being a command and control server for a little botnet. Straight away, that was brilliant for us. That was like, we can see every host on JANET, which is part of this botnet. That information is gold, command and control servers. I love finding command and control servers. It's brilliant. So we detected a number of systems, and from that, somebody sending a little email, trying to get people to join it, we were able to detect those systems and clean them up. In every single case in this one, the attacker, it was a script which would go scan, and then the script would find an infected system. It would upload something called C99 shell.php, C99 mad shell, if you're not familiar with it. From my understanding, I might be wrong, it seems to allow a remote shell on the system running as the user which PHPMyAdmin is running at. Most of the time, that's led to root compromises on these systems. They've obviously then joined them up using their botnet tool of choice to their own command and control server. So in summary, security incidents are absolutely normal. They're a normal part of our operations. 40 gigabits a second also requires a slightly different approach because we can't use a lot of the traditional tools. We can't use things like stateful firewalls. But by far, our best tool is peer communications. So in future, and this is where we'd like to go, we'd like to do some more analysis of some of our NetFlow data, and we'd like to produce some tools to our community. Because we have people on JANET who are, everything from people who just know how to run a Windows Server 2003 box to people who, like some of you, probably compile their own Linux kernels in their spare time for fun. We don't want to aim the people who are really hardcore into security because they're probably doing and creating their own tools themselves. So we want to reach out to the people, mainly in FE, who don't have a lot of those skills. We'd also like to enhance cooperation with the community, particularly if anyone here is actively tracking botnets or malware, stuff like command and control servers. In one command and control server, we can clean 100 machines on JANET. We'd love to share some of that data. We'd also like to work internally on creating some better tools internally for tracking malware. We're not that good when somebody sends us malware samples. We haven't got a lot of experience with it. So if there's any incidents with UK universities or any .ac.uk domains or anything you might think is relevant to us, please contact us straight away, and you will get a response. A real human will look at that email. And nearly all the time, if you're not spamming us, we'll get a response. You can email us at irt@csirt.ja.net. Details are on our website. Are there any questions? Go on, guys. Sorry. Are you talking about fast flux hosting? With some of the fast flux hosting, quite often we do get a reasonable response from the registrar if we wanted to attack the registrar, and we'd probably target the registrar rather than the individual IPs hosting the command and control server. Because we don't have the data of DNS names and that information in NetFlow, it's difficult to track because the command and control server would change all the time. So in those cases, we target the registrar, and we'd have a greater difficulty in finding the infected machines. Anyone else? The question was spam attacks. What proportion are from JANET outside or from JANET inside? Every single one of those spam reports, with a couple of exceptions, were from JANET outside. We don't really raise an incident when somebody else is sending us spam, because there are a lot of people doing some really good work in having honeypots, which when you send a spam to it, it will straight away send a response to the CSIRT team or the CERT team. So we don't see any value in that straight away. We would like to do that, but it's not a priority. We have raised a couple of incidents when people have decided to spam every university in the country. And we've also raised a couple of incidents, I think I've got one going on at the moment, when people are trying to phish UK universities. The phishing, unfortunately, is a bit of a problem. But with the phishing, we have issues, because a lot of these phishing sites we find are hosted on free network providers, where you can get web hosting straight away with a username and a password, and you just got to fill that in. You don't even have to enter your email address in some sites, and you get hosting straight away. Those are obviously problems. But because there could be legitimate users, and we've seen a couple of people on JANET connecting to those IPs on port 21 and 20, so that they obviously have their own sites there, there's still a couple of legitimate users. And that differentiates us from other commercial ISPs. Is that all right? Cool. Any others? At the back? Okay. The question was, how long specifically do we keep net flow data for? Was it a couple of hours, a couple of days, a couple of years? The net flow data on our system is actually limited into the capacity of our SAN at the moment, and we're not looking at increasing it. I won't give exact figures on it, but I can tell you it's more than a couple of days and less than a couple of weeks. Yep. The question was, the person asking the question was aware that the University of Manchester created a system for throttling and managing the bandwidth of peer-to-peer systems. We obviously we don't do that on JANET. We don't throttle connections. We like having the pipes full, because then we can get some bigger pipes. That would be a university-specific question, and I wouldn't be able to know what they're doing internally in regards to traffic shaping, because it's not directly a security incident until we start contacting them about copyright infringements. Anything else? Down there?
Yeah, just out of curiosity, if I was a vendor and I had a bunch of 100 gig NICs lying around, and I was going to build you an appliance that you would use to supplement what you're currently doing, what would that appliance do?
The question was, if the person asking the question was a vendor and they had a couple of 100 gigabit a second Ethernet links lying about to build into appliance, what would we do? We have to walk the line carefully between security and privacy. Most of the time we err on privacy, and some of the with NetFlow we can capture information such as HTTP headers, a lot more deeper information, but we don't choose to do it, even though it might have a positive effect on the security side, because we feel that would have a bad effect on our users' privacy.